right, so we're kicking off our 79 Bronco project. Well, I guess not kicking it off, but we're going to kick off the broadcast of it. We've been working on it for about a year, and I wanted to put together a little video to tell you what Brad and I have already done to this truck and kind of what our plans are. So what you see here is basically how it sits today, the work that we've already done, and the kind of the temporary tires and things like that that we're running on it. But when we picked it up about 3 years ago, it was a very different vehicle. It's out of a pasture here in Central Texas. Belonged to my father for a lot of years, but it had been sitting for a long time. Motor was gone. We had the motor, but it had rusted basically through and through, so it was more or less useless. So we went and picked up the truck. It had sat under some pecan trees, and animals had been living in it. You can see mold was growing all over it, so we basically just stripped it down to nothing. You can see that all of the sap and everything was a perfect platform to grow a lot of mold. Animals were running back and forth, had made the whole thing into just one giant squirrel's nest. I'm pretty sure this was squirrels and or some sort of field mice. The thing stunk really, really bad, so we basically just threw away the entire interior for the most part, especially all of the carpet and everything. It was pretty horrible. We pressure washed it after that. I'll talk about that in a second. But once we got it, we sat down and said, okay, what do we want to do with this thing? And so my thinking is basically something about like this. Get away from the green color, a little bit of a lift, probably not this much lift, maybe 4 or 5 inches worth of lift and 35s. Make it somewhat streetable with an all-terrain type of tire. I like this color, silver, running, go ahead and run all the trim. I like the black top that you see here, but run a lot of the factory chrome and things like that. Just make it as clean and straightforward, make it drivable. I have a hardcore off-road rig. I don't need another one of those. Basically just make it useful, make it easy to drive, fuel injection, all of that stuff. So first thing we did was really get after it with the pressure washer, and it really, really cleaned up nicely. Here's what the top looked like, and here's what it actually looked like before. So, I mean, this was all over the truck, right? So after stripping the interior and after washing it, then that's when we started working towards that goal of making it a usable, drivable vehicle. So the first thing we did was pull the front clip, start cleaning some of the suspension stuff out of the front end. But most importantly, what we were trying to do was make room for a motor that we found at the time, which was a Big Block 460 from a 1995 F350. Now, the good thing about a 460, here you can see what it looks like directly out of the truck. But the good thing about a 460 is it bolts up directly to the 400M or 351 modified bell housing, which is a big block bell housing basically on a small block motor, right? So the transmission, the C6 transmission and transfer case would bolt directly to this motor. So we went out looking for a big block, found it, basically found mostly complete trucks. We got the axles and a lot of the suspension setup and the motor and transmission from that truck as well. Proceeded to strip it all the way down, make it pretty it up a little bit, replace things that made sense, thermostat, distributor cap, wires, water pump, all of that. And painted it, got it looking better. We did delete the AC, but one day we might go back with the AC on it, and replaced a lot of the stuff that made sense to replace: power steering pump, idler pulleys, belts, spark plugs, all of that junk. Then we had to figure out how to get it in the truck. So this is a view looking down inside of the engine bay. And essentially what we did was we bolted up the F350 motor mounts to the 460, and sitting on top here is the plates that were cut out of the F350 frame mounts. So we cut those out and basically bolted those, and you can see we cut slots in the 351 mounts in the Bronco, and then essentially just bolted it up and set it in place and started tacking steel in there to basically join these two pieces of metal. So we didn't buy any special like adapter plates or anything like that. We essentially bolted the transmission in, bolted the transmission to the motor, bolted the transmission in where it was supposed to be, and then just where these landed is where we started welding it together. We basically set it in place, tacked it in place with the motor there, then pulled the motor, and then finish welded all of this stuff up. So unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of pictures of the steps there, but once done, it was a really, really slick install. We didn't have to do any major modifications to the firewall or anything like that. We used the full air intake from the F350. We had to shorten it pretty considerably, which was easy to do, but all of it was free. And basically everything worked, even the radiator hoses. Didn't hit the heater box, didn't hit the power brake booster, anything like that. Now, the one time consuming part of all of that was we did cut down the wiring harness. So we found a wiring diagram for this, for the F350, and then just pin by pin I went through and deleted some things, but basically turned it into, you know, just a 3 or 4 wire hookup. So the nice thing about this is the original F350 wiring harness has all the wiring and connectors in it for like temperature and oil pressure sending units. So we're able to connect those and use those directly. And in both cases, the wire colors in the 79 Bronco harness in the dash actually matches the 1996 F350 engine wiring harness directly. So we're able to get the dash gauges and idiot lights working relatively easily. In some cases, the sending unit had to be swapped out for normally open versus a normally closed, you know, idiot light for oil pressure and things like that. So now I'm just going to take you through a real quick walk around as of the way the truck looks today.
All right, so this is the 460 motor swap that we've already done on it. Just wanted to give everybody just an idea of kind of where we're starting with it. We took everything from the F350, including the airbox, most of the wiring. We cut down the wiring harness, you know, pulled out what we could as far as like emissions and different things like that, EGR valve controls. The computer, you can see, is mounted right here, somewhat insecurely. And we ran, kind of built our own harness for the whole front end of the truck, and wired it into the stock Bronco harness under the hood. So this truck is in pretty good shape, other than the front left fender is beat, which I just did a couple of weeks ago, dragging it around in the pasture. Now, there's a few spots of rust. We'll deal with that when we get around to paint. But it's too bad we didn't film the motor swap. I think that would have been really, really cool for everybody to see. One other thing to notice is we actually use the F350 radiator as well. It fits really, really nice. We're gonna have to do some custom work on the fan shroud, but you know, we got flex fan under here, and yeah, we custom made our own motor mounts. Really, we didn't custom make our own motor mounts. We used the F350 motor mounts, the top of the F350 motor mounts, and then the bottom of the Bronco motor mounts. You can't really see down there, but basically all we did was we took the plasma and just cut the top off of the Bronco motor mounts. So pretty cool project. This truck was actually owned by my father and was sold to him by my granddad, who owned a Ford dealership in Texas. Now, looking around at some of the rest of the truck, pretty ugly in here. We've got some lariat seats. We've got the driver's side already bolted in. Floorboards look really good. We've already painted the dash. And it's rolling on 36s right now, but these are from my Scout. So I had to pull the tailgate off because those of you guys that know these trucks know that they're an electric tailgate. And in order to get the window glass down, we had to pull that out. But all the electric seats and everything actually all work. So a lot of work's already been done to it, and other than this hideous color of green, it's actually a pretty good truck. Runs really well. Has no muffler on it, so it's loud, but we hope to remedy that fairly quickly as well.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to get all the updates on this build as we continue to work on it for the next few months. You can expect in episode 2, we're going to be working on the lift and getting this thing a little bit more drivable and usable. Thanks for tuning in.